Fishmonger here at dansfish.com. We do this live stream every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern for those that are mountain challenged. Thanks for coming by and spending a little bit of your time with us this evening. We're going to talk about fish. That's what we do here. We do aquarium fish, freshwater aquarium fish. I don't know hardly nothing about saltwater. I'm not an expert on aquarium plants, but I can talk to you about aquarium fish of most types. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're going to start with a giveaway. We usually start with a shipping report, but I'm waiting for it to appear. It hasn't been completed yet this week, so I don't have that number yet. But I think it might appear on my phone here sometime during the stream. So sometime during the stream tonight, I think I'll be able to give you the shipping report. And for now, though, we'll just go to the giveaway, and then after that, we'll start talking about fish. So have a discussion. One of the mods, would you remind me in about 20 minutes, if I haven't already done so, or half an hour, to check and see if the shipping report is updated so I can give you guys that number? But for now, let's get to the giveaway. The giveaway tonight was going to be for some Pro Grommies, because very exciting announcement. We finally found a verified virus-free source for Grommies. So these Pro Grommies came from a breeder, and we ran them through the lab, and I'm happy to say there was no sign of iridovirus, megalocytine virus, or mycobacteria. So, or any other virus. Not that mycobacterium is a virus, but no viruses and no mycobacterium. So that is a huge win. For those that might not know, Grommies in the hobby are just absolutely plagued with iridovirus, and they're very susceptible to it. And they'll get these big sores on the fish, and it's just a really kind of nasty thing. And so that's why we typically don't carry things like dwarf Grommies, pearl Grommies, honey Grommies, because we don't want to sell ones that have iridovirus. So we've been looking for literally years. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I've been looking for years for a supplier that I could get virus-free stock from. And I've tried lots of them. This time what we did is a few months ago we ordered a batch of Grommies, and we just observed them, because usually over the course of a few months you'll start seeing maybe lesions on the fish, signs of iridovirus. Nothing happened, so we're like, hey, maybe these are actually virus-free. So at that point, we sent some to an animal diagnostic lab, a state diagnostic lab, and had them work them up, and their report came back that they did not find any virus. So that is huge for me. It's been years in the making, and I'm so thrilled to finally be able to sell these Grommies in a way that I think is responsible, because they've been screened and they're not going to have this virus. I mean, hopefully, truly, you can't truly say something doesn't have a virus. You can say it was screened for a virus and no evidence of a virus was found. It's kind of like there's a difference in actually being innocent versus being proven guilty. Like sometimes you might not be innocent, but you haven't been proven guilty. It's kind of like that with viruses. So, so I'm super excited about that. So the plan was to give away some of those today. However, we listed those for sale a couple days ago, and they went instantly. So we sold out instantly. So I just don't have any I can give away right now. We'll be getting some more in. Now that we know that this breeder's stock is free of the virus, we'll bring quite a few more in. And at that point, maybe we'll be able to do a giveaway. But yeah, they sold super fast. So that's why instead of giving away some Pro Grommies tonight, we are going to give away another really cool fish, which is the long-finned Rosy Barb. Everything you love about a Rosy Barb: hardy, beautiful, active, outgoing, but with beautiful long fins on them. Here's my attempt at a picture. the picture's not the greatest, but you can get a sense, right? Nice long fins edged in black on a big mature male. I think that that's just an absolutely stunning fish. And we have males and females. They're breeding all the time here. It's their favorite thing to do. There's like a little clump of, I'm looking now, I think it's Java moss, but it might just be a big clump of hair algae. I think it's Java moss in that tank, and they're always spawning on it. So easy fish to breed. If you're wanting to breed egg layers, this is not a bad first one to get going with. Like look at the fins on these things. They're absolutely beautiful fish. Hardy as all get out. Really easy, simple beginner's fish. So if you want some stunning longfin Rosy Barbs for your aquarium, you might win some if you enter the hashtag pearls, because I was going to give away pearl Grommies. Yep. So the hashtag is pearls, Pearls, but the giveaway is Rosy Barbs. So enter hashtag pearls, hashtag Pearls, plural, pearls. No spaces, caps don't matter in the chat. And you will ironically be entered to win a drawing for some long-finned Rosy Barbs. Yeah, I set this up in advance when I thought we'd be giving away pearl Grommies, and I did not realize I hadn't changed it back. So, all right, there you go. That's the giveaway. Let me just check here and see if, okay, yeah, Random Arms is working on the percentage here, and so it's coming. I'll get the shipping report to you shortly. Before we do that, I want to talk about an addition we made to our website here at dansfish.com. So I've resisted putting my water parameters on the website for quite a while now. And the reason is there's still this idea floating around the hobby that you need to adjust your water so it matches the water of the fish you're getting. So whatever the fish are being kept at here, a lot of people think that they need to adjust their water in their tank to match that before they can order fish from us. And that's just not true. After the fish go in a bag and go through the shipping process and all that, the water chemistry in the bag is actually quite different than the water chemistry in the aquarium they were kept in before they went in the bag and got shipped. So even if you take your bag and prep it to match the water that they were in before, it's not going to match the water they arrive in necessarily. Some parameters are hardier than others, but a lot of these parameters shift during shipping. So I didn't want to put the parameters out there and make people think they have to adjust. But one of the questions we get the most is, what are your water parameters? So I've added something to every listing, which I think will solve the problem, I hope. Now at the bottom we say this. Oh, I'm in the way. Can I make that any higher? There we go. If you go to any listing, we give you our parameters, but we also have an explanation. We say we keep all our fish at a temperature of 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's true. Our pH measures around 8.3 with a KH and GH a bit over 300 parts per million. And then my hope is that the following explanation will keep people from immediately going to their tank and trying to alter it and add chemicals and stuff to get it to those parameters. That being said, we want to caution folks with different water parameters from thinking that they need to change their water for our fish. We have many customers in the Pacific Northwest, upstate New York, and other areas that have very soft water. Our fish do just fine in their water without any parameter matching. What is most important is that the water our fish are put in upon arrival have steady parameters, not that your water parameters match ours. So I finally broke down, I put the parameter information on there, just because we get that question so often. And I hope doing it in that way with that explanation will give folks the information they want without them going and being like, okay, that's the parameters. I'm going to make my tank have those exact parameters and try for to pinpoint something that's unnatural to my water, right? That's what I'm trying to avoid. So hopefully I did that right. We'll know what effect it has over in a little time here. We'll see how it plays with folks, but my hope is that one little addition will give folks the info they need without causing any confusion. Because confusion can abound in this hobby, for sure. I remember when I first started, I thought I had to, I read the magazines and the books and the forums, and well, back then, what were they? You wouldn't call them group chats, would you? Back then, the internet was young in 1990, whatever. I thought I had adjusted parameters, so I bought the pH up and the pH down, and I put in pH down, and oh, too much, put in pH up, oh, too much, put in pH down, and oh, got it perfect. Next morning, came back, tested it, oh, it's off again, better do it again. I did that whole yo-yo thing because I knew the parameters where they were coming from, and I thought I had to have the exact thing, or I had read what the parameters were in the wild, and I thought, oh, I'm getting rummy nose tetras or cardinal tetras or whatever. I better have the pH down to 5.5. I did all that because, and to this day that persists. A lot of people first getting into this hobby will read that these fish come from a pH of this, and here's the other parameters, and be like, okay, I'm going to make that happen, and they just end up hurting the fish with this big yo-yo effect. So that's what I was trying to avoid, but I don't think I can avoid it anymore. People have spoken too much that they want that information. So, yep. So that's the big change. All right, I think our shipping report is there. Okay. Ooh, the news from Random Arms here is that the report went up, that it improved. So that's good. Let me bring it up here, and I can tell you what our shipping percent is for the last week versus the week before that. Okay. I have to scroll for a while because we have lots and lots of data on this to get to that number. Oh, nice! Nice. This is awesome. This is so great. Last time we talked to you about our shipping percentage, I believe it was on the 14th. It was a week ago, right? Something like that. We were at 98.96%. 98.96. Our goal is 99%, and we are now currently at 99.01%. It actually improved. That's awesome. That's great. In this weather, in this crazy winter weather, for that to improve, that is quite an accomplishment. So I want to congratulate Austin and Johnny and the crew, which worked so hard to make sure that the fish are properly packaged and shipped and all that. We've got some more weather information now than we had last year. So we're able to not ship to the southeast, this week when Florida and Louisiana are getting snow. Crazy stuff like that. Because if all I do is look at the temperatures, I'm like, oh, it's 30 degrees or whatever, I can ship, no problem. No issue. But if you're in Florida and it's 30 degrees and you got snow, even a little dusting of snow, that shuts down the entire city. And so if you ship into that, those fish are getting delayed and there's going to be problems. So I can ship to 30 degrees all day long in Michigan. That's like warm. But in Florida, I can't. So we've got smarter than we were last year, I think, about understanding how the weather impacts different regions of the country and trying to make the right decisions when it comes to that kind of stuff. Now, that being said, there were a few problems. If you were one of the customers that had an order that arrived and there were some losses, I really apologize. I know that's horrible. We have a pretty good track record, but every now and then something goes sideways on us. But 99 point, was that 01% up from what it was at last time? That's amazing, especially in this weather. I'm super happy. I'm super happy about that. So for those that don't know, that's the 12-month average of how many fish we shipped out that were received successfully by our customers as reported by our customers. So that means the customers received fish that were alive and apparently in good, healthy shape, right? That's how we achieve that number. And that's the most important number here at dansfish.com. And that's why we share it every week on these live streams, because that's the number that drives our decisions. Our goal is to source fish, maintain the fish here, treat the fish here, and transport the fish to our customers in such a way that the customer is guaranteed success with the fish. That 99% of the time or better, the fish they get are going to be alive and healthy and in good shape so that they thrive for the customer long term. That's the goal. That's the change we're trying to make in this industry. Instead of you get some fish and 2 weeks later you're down to, you bought 10, now you have 2. We're trying to change that so that people are actually successful with their fish. So I'm thrilled to announce that. That is awesome news. Booyah. Again, thanks to everyone that works here for your hard work. There's a lot of you that put a lot of work, energy, time, and passion and care into making sure that happens. And it's much appreciated. Booyah. Okay, I'm happy. I'm so happy. I should announce that we're going to have a lot of new listings hit the website tomorrow. So if you're looking for some fish to buy, we'll have a whole bunch of new stuff at dansfish.com tomorrow. We've got roughly right around 200 species listed for sale right now, and we'll have a bunch more new stuff added. So that's pretty exciting. Okay. Boogie! What a boogie hashtag. I love it. I'm glad you love it. Pearls. Yep. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to switch to the chat here. We're going to engage in some conversation. If you have a question or comment for me, if you would put the @ symbol and then select Dance Fish from the menu that pops up, then I'll see this bright orange box as I scroll, and these bright orange boxes are what I reply to in the chat. That's what you do to call my attention, that you have a question or comment directed at me instead of just, hey, we're chatting among ourselves in the chat and having a good old time, right? Before I transfer, though, I want to thank the moderators for being here and for moderating. I really, really appreciate y'all doing that. Okay, let's check the health of the stream real quick. 0 dropped frames. That's excellent. Stream health. Stream is healthy. All right, think we're good. Before we get to the questions and comments in the chat, we have a new issue that popped up a few weeks ago, which was the browser crashing. The stream doesn't crash. You guys can still hear and see me, but my browsers crash. And when that happens, the chat entries all get erased and stuff. So if that happens, then right before we're actually doing the giveaway, I'll give the hashtag again, so you guys don't enter and then get kicked out, and enter and get kicked out. And I have no idea what this problem is, because I tried a different browser last week thinking it's just the browser, and it did it again. I do have, someone said they thought it might be Nightbot doing it, and so I haven't had a chance to do it, but I'm gonna try to find an alternative maybe to Nightbot for next week and see if that fixes things. But I've had the same, I've used Nightbot for years and years and didn't have the issue, so I don't know. But anyway, let's move to the questions and comments. Here we go. KCM Aquatics. Do you have any more female Bivitatum funge? I do not know the answer to that. I assume you looked on the website. Okay. Let me see here. I think I might have some new ones. Okay, I'm looking here. I've got to go find it. Let me find that list. Okay. I was actually working on this earlier today, so it's right at the top. Let me see. As far as I know, we do not. That's one I think I tried to order, and I don't think it arrived. Johnny, if you know differently than I, would you let KCM Aquatics know if we have Do we have a spare female funge around? Not that I know of. But KCM, I'm in the tanks less and less. In more and more, what my focus is on now is other areas of the business. So I'm not as familiar with the fish in every tank as I used to be. I still walk through the warehouse and I still look at the fish and stuff, but that's different from when you're the one caring for them intensely every day. You know exactly that you have one random female bivitatum funge in this random tank that you could sell. And you know exactly how she's doing, how long you've had her and all that stuff. But I'm not, my focus has shifted lately and I'm not as in touch on that. Dan J, my pH test's normal, 7.2, but my alkalinity drops below 40. What's the best long-term solution for buffering the water? Personally, I like crushed coral quite a bit. I think it's easy, it's cheap, it is a gradual buffer, so you don't get this big spike in hardness, or it doesn't lower real fast. It's a very stabilizing thing. So my thing would be crushed coral. Cheap, easy. You can stick it in a filter. You can mix it with your gravel. You can put it in a little filter sock and put it by your air stone. There's all kinds of ways you can put it in your aquarium. Karen Moish, whatever happened to the Stiffet on Aner you brought a few months ago and advertised as in quarantine? Did they not make it? Still on the hunt? They are still in quarantine. In fact, Johnny and I were talking about them today. So we're still working on them. Some fish just take a long time to figure out. So just for those that might not know, that might be new, our standard quarantine is 2 weeks. Every fish we bring in gets a quarantine of 2 weeks, and we take care of them, we observe them, we have a diagnostic lab should we need it to see if they have a parasite or whatever and treat them properly. Pick the proper medications with which to treat them. So that's the minimum. Sometimes fish come in and something's off and we don't know what the problem is. And it can take us quite a while to figure it out, or quite a while for them to stabilize and get fat and sassy and in a condition that we think that 99% plus of them, right, are gonna arrive to our customers and live and thrive for our customers. So we don't sell a fish until I think I could sell it to my mother, that I could put it in a tank with my mother who doesn't know a whole lot about fish and she could be successful with it, right? She's not the expert on the health, we are. And so our job is to make sure they go out healthy. And sometimes it takes a long time, Cameron, to get them there, but we still have them and we're still getting them through the process and they're getting better. So they might be ready soon. Yeah, long process on that one. I think the longest we've gone is something like 6 months. There was a group of puffers that took us, I think, 6 months to get to the point where they were like, okay, now these are really healthy and good to go. But almost everything's ready to go after 2 weeks. But every now and then it's like, I don't know. Sometimes you can't quite put your finger on it. Sometimes it's just like, I don't think those are acting quite right. Or there's a random death here and there. Like, what's going on? And we have to, put on our detective cap and go figure it out. Spinster sister, I just picked up 3 pea puffers. Oh, how much fun is that? I have plenty of empty cycle tanks to choose. What size is preferred? They came from a tank with at least 40 peas inside. Well, I think you could keep 3 pea puffers in as little as like a 5.5 gallon aquarium, provided it had a lot of hardscape or plants or something like that. They're very curious. So they're not fast swimmers. They're not like these open water fast swimming fish like a hill trout or a danio or a rainbow fish. What they do is they cruise up and down and they look at the surfaces and they look at the crevices and they look under the plant leaves and the little cracks in the rocks and all that, looking for little neat things to eat and to play with. They're kind of curious, fun fish. And so I don't think you need a big tank, but what I think you need is a lot of interesting surface area for them to explore and keep occupied with. That greatly enriches their lives. And then if you do something occasionally, like put in a few live scuds or put in, something like that for them to chase down. Like the scuds will go hide in all the cracks and crannies and stuff. And then especially if you put them in at night when the puffers won't eat them instantly when they hit the water. And then the puffers, it'll take them a week to hunt them all down and eat them. And that's great fun for them. So it's the surface area, I think, more than anything else that is necessary for the pea puffers. Fluffy cow. Cheers on making it back to 99. I know, this time of year too. I'm so afraid now. Now, like, I hope I didn't brag. Did I brag? If I bragged, karma's gonna smack me down. Like, that's just how life is, right? It's like, yes, we're doing so good. Boom. Okay, we're humble again. So we'll see, but we're riding 99. We're gonna ride it as long and hard as we can. We're gonna enjoy that ride while we got the ride going. Yeah, for sure. It just means that we have the best employees ever here at Gans Fish. They're the ones that do all the work for that. I mean, I do some heat pack stuff and we talk about weather and kind of get a plan together, but they're the experts at it at this point in time. Brett Baker, my entire shipment of neocardinas and amanos from another company died hours after adding them to their tanks today. Feeling like a failure. Any pointers to improve my odds next time? Well, I have no idea what the practices of that company are. But from what I've seen, and this is over 30 plus years doing this as a hobbyist in different aspects of the industry. I've been working in this industry on and off since I was 12, 13. No, it wasn't 12. It was 13 or 14 when I first volunteered at a mom and pop pet store for the first time, right? Before I was ever paid to work in pet stores, I liked fish so much that I go just volunteer. Like, could I just clean your tanks? I just wanted to be around fish. And after seeing all that and then running this company and seeing as many fish come in from as many suppliers as I have, I honestly think almost all the problems in this industry go back to supply chain. How the animals are sourced, how they're treated along the different links in the supply chain are what I see has the biggest impact on their health. Like, amanos are tough as nails. I mean, it's kind of hard to kill an amano shrimp. So I don't know what that fish went throughout that whole thing that made it weak enough to die when it got in your tank. So that's the biggest, most common thing, I think. Now, that being said, there could be, let's say that they were perfectly healthy when they arrived. That could be the case. Maybe the company did a great job and the supply chain they worked with was awesome and they got to you in perfect shape, went in and all died. The only thing I can think of that would do that to a shrimp, especially an amano shrimp, is like some kind of toxin or something in the water. So if there's other critters in that water doing great, that's not the case. But provided they got to you in perfect health, you put them in, they just died real quick. I don't know. Something in the water is my guess. And the reason that's my guess is I used to have really, really soft water. And I would get shrimp and put them in and they would live, even if they came from hard water sources. Now I have really, really hard alkaline water. And I can get shrimp and put them in, and if they're treated right on the supply chain, they'll live. If they're not treated right, it's kind of like total loss. So that's my thoughts on that. I've had shrimp from very different parameters than my water many times, both when I had hard and soft water. And if they were supplied correctly, that didn't shock them and kill them, from what I can ascertain. So that's my thoughts on that, Brett. I should say, I've seen a lot of shrimp. We've brought in a lot of shrimp, but I don't feel like I'm nearly as well versed on shrimp as I am on fish. So that's my thoughts. I'm not a noob with shrimp or anything like that, but I'm not that uber that uber shrimp nerd that knows everything about them. So I could be off base here, but that's my thoughts from the experience I do have with shrimp. Jody P, Johnny to the Clash. Hey! Also thanks to Johnny for answering all Jody P's questions. That's a 20. Thank you so much. You and Lumi also sending Johnny to the Clash. Oh, with some snacks. Well, now we're just getting fancy. Now he's going to Clash and he's going to eat? Oh, come on. Mr. WW. Itinjo or Aves Creek? How many in a 75 gallon with Corys? Honestly, either one. I can't tell much of a difference between an Itinjo and an Aves Creek once they're adults and fully colored in. They both get dark black in the front half of the fish and bright orange on the back half. They look almost identical to me. So color-wise, behavior-wise, size-wise, all that stuff, either one is fine. And in a 75 gallon with Corys, I don't know how your tank's filtered. I don't know how often you like doing water changes and stuff. So I would say a really safe number in a 75 gallon would be, I don't know, you could do 8 in there without any problem. You could probably do a few more than that too, depending on, you know, how much you want to change water. But space-wise, I think 8 is not a problem at all. Bugsy Craftworks. If you could breed only one kind of guppy, what would it be? Well, the best way for me to analyze that, because if I was breeding a guppy and only one in big numbers, I would be doing that for profit, I think. So let me see what the most popular guppy we sell is, and that will inform my decision. So I'm going to take a look at some analytics here. This is going to take us just a second here to see this. Okay. Now, when I run these analytics, it takes a little bit of time because there's so many data points for it to pull from that it takes it a little while, especially on my phone, for it to crunch in all that data and give me an answer. So I'm going to let that run. I'll get to the next question. Wait, did it just do it? No, it's still running it. Hopefully it doesn't time out. On my phone, it works better on the computer than my phone. Oh wait, I think we just did it. Yeah, okay, I didn't have to wait too much. So what's the top guppy? And this won't be a perfect answer because sometimes we have fish that are super popular and we can only get a few of them and then they sell out real quick, and then those don't rise to the top on this sales report I'm looking at. But just off the cuff, this is without doing some real, like, how many and for how long did we have them listed and all that, and getting that all together. Just off the cuff, I'm gonna go with, hang on, still looking here. Red Dragon Guppies. The Red Dragon Guppies, just on that quick cursory thing, appear to be hugely popular. And so that's probably the one that I would breed. Yeah. Also, there's all kinds of possibilities in a line or in something that has as complex a genetic profile as Red Dragon Guppies that you could develop all kinds of neat strains just from Red Dragon Guppies. So that'd keep it interesting for a long time. It was -6 here in New Jersey this morning. I know that's cold for you. I know in New Jersey that's cold too. Yep. Now you know what I go through, like, you know, on the daily. Actually, it's been a pretty mild winter here in Wyoming. We haven't got down to, you know, negative 35 or anything like that yet. Every now and then I call them snot freezers. When it's cold enough outside that you walk outside and it freezes the snot inside your nose. I know, it's a lovely description, I know, but we've only had a few of those. So that's been nice. Fitty, I'm struggling getting my gold 70 any other than frozen bloodworms. Ooh, any tips how to change that? He's the only fish in that I struggle with, thanks. The way I get fish to change foods is I offer the food I want them to eat and I give them time with it. And if they don't eat it, okay, the best is if it's like a water stable food, a food that isn't going to disintegrate right when you feed it. So let's assume you have a water stable food. You can put it in the tank and it'll last for hours in the tank before it decomposes into powder or dissolves into powder and just gets all in your gravel and gunks up your filter and all that, right? If that's the case, I would feed that food to that severum, say in the morning. No, I would feed that food to that severum whenever the normal feeding time is. Let's say you normally feed in the morning. That's when I'd feed that severum. I wouldn't expect it to eat that food. I would expect it to be a little while before it got familiar enough with it to want to eat it, but I put it in there. And then that evening, assuming this is a food that stays water stable all day long, I would scoop it out if they hadn't eaten it and give them the food they do eat. I'd probably only feed them every other day or so during this process, lightly. That fish will be fine for a long time eating every other day. And then I would repeat that process over and over. Daily, I would put in the food I want them to eat. Then every other day or so, if the fish was nice and big and bulked up and fat and sassy, every other day or so, I'd feed it a small meal of what it does eat. And after a few times, it'll get familiar enough with the new food, and there's enough gap between when that's fed and when it'll get the food it really likes, that in my experience, they'll start eating it. Sometimes it can take a little while. Now, if this was a skinny fish that wasn't gaining weight and I was worried about getting up to the proper weight, then I would do that same thing, but I would feed the food they regularly eat more often. But that's how I would approach that. Danielle Ingalls, not Ingalls. Danielle Ingalls. There we go. Oh, hi, Dansfish. Hello. Wasn't even a comment or anything. I just saw an orange thing and went for it without reading beyond that. Not Stefan, Johnny, Clash, exclamation point. Nuff said. Kaler's Reptiles and Aquatics. Holy cow, Bob, thank you. That is a super generous super chat. Thank you so much. Bob, appreciate it. Wow, Bob making it rain tonight. Okay, Seville Steve. My latest adventure here is to attempt to breed neon tetras. Oh yeah, do it. Go for it. That's a great tetra to start with. And Mike's Aquariums, Mike's Aquatics, Mike's Aquariums or Mike's Aquatics, a gentleman from the UK, has a whole series of breeding tetras like that. And he does one where he focuses on breeding the neon tetras. So I would highly suggest you check out his channel and watch that video. He shows you how easy it can be. And it doesn't have to be this real complex thing. Has the Clash Fund for Johnny been covered? Do we move on to getting him snacks, says Lumi. We'd have to dig into that, Lumi. We have not looked at all. We have not looked. Jake Bell, have you guys found distributors often send far more males than females when it comes to clown killifish? Also hoping to see regular gardener Achilles back soon. Need some females. No, I honestly think that the clown killies are pretty evenly sexed. From what I've seen. We get plenty of both sexes. Yeah. Yeah, I hope to have gardener eye for you too. That's one of my absolute favorite fish. Often it is my favorite fish. My favorite fish never stays put. It kind of vacillates between like gardener eye and Fundulopanchax bivitatum funge and blue galaris and a couple other species. Maybe a Rackevi type, Nothobronchius. But it's often gardener eye. Does anyone else do that? It's like, I have a favorite. Oh, but tomorrow it's slightly different. But then a week later, no, it's still that one again. Like, yeah. Mr. W squared, does this work? Yes. Work from the YouTube app or need to use a desktop. Testing to see if it shows up orange for you to see. So it's right here and it's bright and orange. Mr. W squared. Mr. WW. Yep. Okay, TJ. Setting up a goby tank to order some of your dwarf neons. Why are so many local gobies so thin? Ah, yes. They seem very prone to this or are most wild. Thank you for always caring. All Stiffodon gobies are wild. Stiffodon gobies have to go through, oh, what's the fancy word for it? I forget the name of it, but they breed in fresh water. The babies are swept out to the estuaries, to the brackish areas, the salt water, where they join the plankton cloud, develop to a certain size, and then swim back up to the fresh water and live the rest of their lives. That's where they grow up and mature and live the rest of their lives. So because of that, they're a little complex to breed. And I don't know any industry source that's breeding them at scale in aquariums. So, yes, it's very common for Stiffodon gobies to be thin. And what we've had to do here is try lots of suppliers until we found one that treated them correctly and got us fat ones. So what can happen is oftentimes, unfortunately, and this is one of the reasons we refuse to work with certain suppliers, because we're trying to change this in the industry, and we think that our money, where we spend our dollars with our suppliers, is what speaks. That's what makes the change, right? But there are suppliers that'll get a group of Stiffodon gobies, and they'll be fat and sassy, and they'll get a ton of them. And then they'll house them for quite a while, and they're not really feeding them and caring for them properly during that time. They're not putting a lot of effort into their health and well-being during that time. And so if you got them the week they arrived at that exporter, they would be fine. But if you got them a week or so later, now you're going to have a whole bunch of skinny, unhealthy Stiffodon gobies. And so that's the issue. It's a supply chain issue. It's how were they treated? How long were they held without proper food and care? So, yeah. Thankfully, we've been able to weed those companies out and work with the ones that don't do that to their fish. That's one of our main focuses here at Dan Fish, is humanely sourcing the fish. And that means from suppliers that take care of their fish and transport them responsibly. And yeah. Ryan Hatfield, any idea when blue or red flame apistos will be back in stock? No, we were not able to bring any blue flames in this month, so perhaps next month. So the blue flame apistos are there's only one place that I know of that produces them, and they don't produce a ton of them. And pretty much every time they have any, we buy them all. So whenever I can, I bring them in. Yeah, that's where we're at with that. And to be fully frank with you, it's taken us too long to get the blue flame apistos healthy and ready to sell. And so we're trying to figure out what we can do to change that, so that we don't keep bringing in a fish and then being like, oh, these are going to take a while, right? These need a lot of work. So I don't think that they're more sensitive than other apistos, but there's something about them that's a little different, and we haven't quite nailed it yet, or it takes us a long time to get over that, I guess is one way to say it. Anti-spam turned on, only enter once to avoid getting your entries removed. Yeah, when you enter the chat, when you enter to win the long-finned Rosy Barbs by entering the hashtag pearls, oddly enough, if you do it multiple times, if you spam the chat, then Nightbot automatically it makes it so you're ineligible to win. So don't do that. I'm so afraid to say this. I hope this doesn't jinx the stream, but so far my browser has not crashed. So that's pretty good. Max Cat testing. Yep, Max Cat, I see you bright and orange. Boom, right there. SWFL, Swivel Aquatics. Is it expensive to test for disease? Oh yeah, sure. When you submit something to a state lab, those labs who's working there are specialists. For example, the lab that we submitted ours to has the foremost world specialist on megalocytine virus working there. And so you're paying full PhDs, an industry wage, veterinarians and PhDs, and they've got to use specialized equipment. Well, have you had any blood work done recently? Like, labs are expensive. That's the simple way to say it. Yes, lab work is expensive. BRDH, what are chances of getting different species of Pangios in? Most stores just list as Pangio Kool-Aid, but some of us oddballs want all the species. Yeah, there's a few of you. So we bring a few in, but we're probably not going to get a lot of different varieties because Kool-Aid freaks, Pangio freaks like yourself, are few and far between. I respect it. I think it's awesome when anyone's into any group of fish so deeply that they appreciate the little nuances of the species, and it's like Pokemon, right? You want to collect them all. I get it. I respect it. But that's not your typical customer. So we do a few. We do your standard coolies. We have a couple species of the giant coolie loaches, Meyer's Eye and I think Semicincta. And we have the Pan O2s and not much beyond that. So what most people want are standard coolies or giant coolies. So that's mostly what we have. I mean, it doesn't, when I bring those in, it's usually around like 400 at a time. And if I bring in 400 of a random Pangio species that the real Pangio freaks want, maybe there's 6 of you in the nation actively looking right now for that species, right? So maybe I sell a few of them, but then I'm stuck with hundreds of them for like a year that I can't sell. So it just, I respect it. I get it from the hobbyist perspective, and that's how I am as a hobbyist too. When I'm into a group of fish, I'm really into it. But on the business side, it just doesn't pan out. Also, there aren't that many reliable sources for distinct species of Pangio. Like, usually the pet stores selling them all as just your standard coolie loach because their suppliers are selling them as that, even though there might be 10 different species that they're selling as that. So it's really hard to to unwind that ball of spaghetti and figure out who's who. I'm wondering if there needs to be dance fish with space in between words. Well, it worked. It's bright orange. As long as it pops up and you can select it, you're good. You're golden. Susan wanted to let you know that the Rio Nene angels I purchased from you are growing up into real beauties. My favorite angelfish. Yeah, aren't they stunning? I love them, especially when the spots come in. Yeah, they're a very special fish. It's so interesting what Mother Nature's done. Like, you can get an angelfish from one spot, like Manicapuru. It's got that bright red blaze up the back. And it's just awesome. Then you go to the Nene and you can get some really neat spotting patterns. And it's like, what was it in this environment versus this one that made it so that happened? Like, there's all these little nuances that affect nature. And I don't think anyone has a handle on what it is. It's just, that's why this is so interesting and never stops being fun. Because the moment you learn something, it opens up 10 new mysteries. So the more you learn, literally the more you don't know. I mean, not literally, but the more you don't know. How's that? Okay, Henry, 10 days ago, one of my raccoon tetras in quarantine started swimming in a corkscrew. Ooh, it improved and now seems normal, but any idea what could cause this? Yeah, many things, but I don't know what caused it. So that's a symptom, not a disease. And there's lots of different pathogens or straight up physiological malformities or whatever that could cause that. So I couldn't speculate. Too many possible causes to know for sure. I'm glad he's doing better, and man, fingers crossed. I hope that tetra, doesn't relapse. I hope it does well long term for you. Alexis Champ. I have a significantly smaller dwarf change cichlid. My others are fat and sassy, but this one is small and sassy. Any pointers? If it's eating a ton and it's active and everything, and it's not just small, but skinny, there could be something causing that. My guess would be most likely that it could be some kind of parasite. Maybe it has a worm or something, but I wouldn't know that for sure. If it's just smaller, and for its size, even though it's smaller, it has good body weight, then I don't think there's anything to worry about. But if it's thin and getting thinner, then it might be time to try some dewormer. Good question, Felix Miranda, the New York fish guy. When do we have pygmy hatchets back in stock? I don't know. I try to order those every time that I get that list. So there's one place I can order them from that they tend to do a good job with them. Every time they have them, I order them. Very rarely do they arrive. So that's one that's just difficult for me to get in. No matter how much I try and say I want it and please send it and yes, it's on my list, I'm going to order that, it doesn't mean they're going to arrive. So when I have had them in the past, they've been delightful. Just absolutely cool. Tiny little hatchet fish. So neat. Big group of them in a tank up at the surface is awesome. Really hard to get though. Curious, what would you say is the best size tank for a group of 7 to 9 swordtails? Well, obviously the bigger the better. So if you have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, that's probably the best. A natural lake. But in the realm of reality, 7 to 9 swordtails, you could get away with different sizes, but I would go with, I don't know, 20 long, 40 breeder, something like that. Swordtails get kind of good sized, and I think and they're fairly assertive, and so I think you want some 3 feet of space is a good start, I think. How much crushed coral? The recommended 1 pound per 10 gallons as prescribed seems like a lot. Yeah, Dan, I don't know the exact amount, but I don't think you need a ton, especially if there's water movement over it and through it. So if it's in your filter or whatever, you don't need a ton. If it's there and it hasn't all been dissolved, it's still active. It's still doing its job. So yeah, I mean, personally, I would put a couple cups in a filter and just run that. That's what I would do. Then maybe if it's not happening, then maybe add some more, mix it in your gravel or whatever. But 1 pound per 10 gallons, I mean, that doesn't, a pound of crushed coral might not be as much as you think. That might only be like that much. So, but I think it's less how much you have and more, is it in a spot in your aquarium where the water has constant flow through contact with it? So it's constantly able to absorb that calcium in and utilize the buffer. Or not just calcium, minerals in. Oh, good. Johnny says the Stiffodon Anier will be released tomorrow. For those asking about the Stiffodon Anier, we'll have them for sale tomorrow. It's what I thought we had talked about, but I didn't want to say that if I was remembering wrong and disappoint, everyone that's waiting for them. We don't have a ton of them, but we have a fun group of them. But those and Rudolarius and some of those others that are hard to get in that everybody wants, they go pretty fast. I'm just saying. That's literally not me trying to push the sale. I don't need to push the sale for those fish. They're going to be gone in 5 minutes. But I just want to let people know the reality is that we could sell a lot of them in a few minutes. And so we're going to try to get more. I know some people are going to be disappointed. There's lots of people that want them that aren't going to get them in time. Alyssa Wren, remember I asked you about the gold pearl Grommies. Is there a chance your amazing supplier has them? No, I've never seen them from that supplier. So I'm sorry. I wish I could accommodate. I want to accommodate, but we're working with this supplier on the pearl Grommies right now. We want to do dwarf Grommies as well, and I'd really like to find some honey Grommies and stuff. Like, it's hard enough just to find the basics, let alone the varieties, right? So I'd love to accommodate you, Alyssa, but the truth is I haven't seen them, and I don't think they have them. How many fish can ship in one box? Well, it depends the size of the box. So let's see here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, I can show this. So if you go to the website and you pick the Bonita Tetra, let's say, and you scroll down, it'll tell you how many fit in the boxes. So you can fit, in a small box, we can fit 10, and that'll cost $39.99 for next day shipping, which I know is a ton, but it's next day, and it's just not cheap to do. By the way, we don't make money on shipping. That's not a profit center for us. Our goal is to break even on shipping. So within a 12-month period, break even on it. So in the summer, we might earn a little bit more, and in the winter, it'll be a little bit less. And we want, in the 12-month annual year, for that to balance out to zero. We're not trying to gouge people for shipping. It's just expensive. So, and then in a large box, you can fit 28 for $49.99. The medium is 17 for $45.99, and the giant is 52 fish for $69.99. So if you look on the website, it'll tell you exactly how many fish you can fit in each box and what the shipping will cost you. So hopefully that helps anyone shopping on the website to make, have the information they need to make. Our goal is to make it so you can go to the website and have all the information you need to make a real-time decision on if you want to buy it then or not. And not be like, ooh, I guess I'll need to follow up and find out this and this and this before I know if I can buy it. Ooh. Excuse me, gotta wet my whistle here. Razzle Dazzle. Jazz hands. I've heard, give me the old Razzle Dazzle. I've heard and adopted plop and drop intro method. Are there situations you recommend drip acclimation method? No. The plop and drop is what works best for me. I find that with drip acclimation, there's a lot more room for error. And I think over time that the average will be in your favor if you just do plop and drop. I guess there's like super extreme situation would be trying to take a freshwater molly and switch it to salt water or vice versa. That you would drip acclimate, you'd transition very gradually over the course of maybe a few weeks. So something crazy like that. But as far as I've got a freshwater fish, I have soft water, the source has hard water, or vice versa. No, I have not seen that to be advantageous. Now, is there a situation that I am unaware of where it would be advantageous? Probably, but I'm not aware of it. Dan Duffy, I've got a rapidly growing Santa Maria Endler colony. Yes! Any recommendations to size them up faster? Yes, change more water and feed more. Like, the more water you can change, as long as you're replacing it with stable, gassed off water that the parameters aren't going to shift on you, the better. The quicker they'll grow. And then the more you can feed. So growing fry, the key is give them as much food as you can without polluting the water. That's the key. And food in front of them all day long if you can. Dan Duffy, oh, that was Dan Duffy's question. Big Steve's glass boxes. Hey, Big Steve, hope you're doing stupendous today. Have you ever spawned rainbow shiners? If so, how did you collect the eggs? I did spawn them. I don't think I collected the eggs. I think I just left them in the aquarium. The way a lot of people do it, though, is they'll let's say you really want to collect the eggs. They'll put them in a bare tank. They'll put a plastic shoebox or something like that that's fairly shallow and kind of long in there, full of either big pea gravel or marbles or something like that. And then they'll put a power head. Maybe they'll put a rock in front of that container, a big rock, and they'll put a power head over that so that the container is behind the flow. How can I show this? Okay. Okay. This magic small fish feed is the rock. This here is the container that has gravel in it, and the power head is over here where my pinky is, blowing water towards the rock. So the water is going over the rock and kind of creating this little vacuum here where it goes over the rock, and there's this still zone here where they can lay their eggs. Now, you don't even have to be that complicated about it. You could probably just put them in a 10-gallon tank with a sponge filter and some gravel or marbles they can lay their eggs in. Anyway, whatever you do, once they spawned, then you can take the gravel out or the marbles out, and the eggs aren't very sticky or anything. They just kind of settle down, and you can collect them that way. Or you can just take that container and move it to the rearing container, or you can get a siphon and try that. So there's lots of different ways to do it, but the thing that's going to trigger them is a temperature rise. So if you can get their temperature down to 50 degrees or so for a couple weeks, 45, 50 degrees, real gradually. You don't want to take them, oh, they've been in a tropical temperature tank, but I want to breed them, so I, just plop them in that water over, maybe I float them for 10 minutes and let them go. Don't do that. Over the course of a few days, maybe a couple weeks, lower the temperature down to like 45 degrees. Wait a few weeks, and then raise it up gradually to 65 degrees. Once they hit 60, 65 degrees, they'll fire up and they'll start spawning, provided they're adults and all that. It helps if you want, you can play the light cycle at the same time while you're lowering the temperature. Have the light on in the room or on the tank less time, and then when you're raising the temperature, extend the light period. So you have temperature and photo period kind of stimulating them. It's like fall and spring, right? Is what you're trying to simulate there. My brain. Denise has gifted 5 Dan's Fish memberships. Thank you so much, Denise. Much, much appreciated. Appreciate you. My brain has trouble with calculating Denise and Dennis. It just has trouble with that. I don't know why. Are red stripe killifish particularly jumpy? Yes. Not more so than any other killifish, but yes. All aphyosemians are extremely jumpy. I mean, rivulus are jumpier than aphyosemians and blah, 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 but they're all jumpy enough that just consider them all expert jumpers who will escape your aquarium if you don't have a tight-fitting lid. Very few exceptions. I haven't had Florida flagfish jump, even if I kept them in like tubs or ponds. I might be the only one. I don't know if Aphanius are big jumpers, or different Cyprinodon type species of pupfish, but they could be, yeah. So I don't want to recommend that. But Florida flagfish, in my experience, haven't been big jumpers. Pretty much everything else I've kept, I've just been like, not gonna risk it. Aquashella will be in Los Angeles, Pomona Fairplex this year. Your buddies at Coast would love to see you. Maybe suggest you being a speaker at the event. Yeah, I mean, if Aquashella reached out and wanted me to speak, I would do that, for sure. I'd be interested in doing that. Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that. I'd love to go to see my SoCal friends. I mean, that's my old stomping grounds. That's where I went to college. Reformed, and I can never say the second name, so I'm just going to call you Reformed. I can't seem to get my bumblebee gobies to breed in brackish. Huh. Lots of food, lots of caves. I think that's pretty much all you need. I'm assuming this is a brackish water species like Dorrier or something like that, and not the true freshwater bumblebees. Although I'd be surprised if they didn't breed in saltwater too. Bumblebees are pretty non-particular, I think, when it comes to that. I don't know. Lots of food, lots of caves is all I can recommend. And maybe they are breeding and it's hard to tell in the caves. They'll go in a cave and you might not see it. Like they might just be hidden. Like maybe they're breeding all the time, but they're going to eat the babies. So they might be breeding all the time, but the babies are just getting eaten as soon as they're not being guarded by the parent anymore. So that's a possibility. That's all I've got, Reformed. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that? I feel like I don't know enough to really help there. I don't have any ideas there to really be helpful. Alyssa Wren. I want a tank with wild type bettas. Good choice. By the way, jumpers have a tight fitting lid. Which are the funnest, friendliest type? I'm looking for hardiness, cohabitation, and personality over color. Falx, Pugnax, NSA, those are all really hardy, not super aggressive, outgoing, easy to breed, fun, wild type bettas. So do you like size? If you want big ones, I go with like Pugnax or Pugnax type. Anabantoidus is another good one. If you want a smaller one, I'd go with like Falx or Simplex, something like that, maybe. Those are the ones that come to the tip of the tongue when I think of what you're trying to do there, Alyssa. And by the way, they're awesome. Like, they might just be brown with some white and black color and some shine to the edge of the fins and stuff, but they'll still entrance you. They're fun fish. Tropical Treasures, Wyo. Have you run across red-eye sailfin mollies? I've run across albinos that had red eyes. Is that what we're talking about? If not, if you're talking about like a non-albino that has a bright red eye, I don't think so. I don't think I'm familiar with that. Fluffy Cow Aquatics, my browser crashed for you. Well, it did a good job because I still have not had a crash. So knock on wood. I'm gonna try something real quick. So if I click on that, and that does some work catching up, and then click back. Okay, is it gonna crash now? Did that affect it? Just curious if clicking on Nightbot has any effect. Does it happen after I click off Nightbot? I don't know. We'll see. Razzle Dazzle, thank you for answering the plop versus drip. Yeah, you got it. And I mean, everything I tell you is just based on my experience. There could be someone else with a completely different experience that's just as valid, but that's my experience. Ryan Hatfield, thanks for the detailed response. Much appreciated. You're welcome, Ryan. Thanks for participating in the chat, making it lively. There's a Reddit about a person breeding blue flames. Awesome. I would like to buy all their babies. Like if I can get that fish sourced from a breeder here in the United States, I would love doing that. I just think that they'd be quicker to get through quarantine. Marbles Sojeki? That's what I'm going with. Why are CPDs often a bit pricey given how easy they are to breed? I've been able to breed about 300 in the course of a few months. I think the market would be saturated by now. No, that's a fish that I don't think the market will ever be saturated by because it's so awesome. So here's why they're pricey. They're continuous spawners. Your really inexpensive aquarium fish are mass spawners. Your tetras, your barbs, let's just use those as an example, okay? If you take some females of those species and you separate them from the males and you feed them for a few days, a week, something like that, they're going to get full of eggs, just hundreds and hundreds of eggs in them. And then if you take them and breed them, in one spawning event, in a few hours, they'll produce hundreds of fry for you, hundreds of eggs. All you have to do if you're a commercial enterprise that's breeding fish for the industry is breed 100 of those, and you have 300,000 of them ready to go. If you have 100 females, you have 300,000. Like that. And the number could be different. It could be 200,000, it could be higher. But what I'm saying is, you can produce a ton quickly, simply, without too many brood stock. That's why those fish are so inexpensive in the industry. Now, or a lot of them are. Now the CPD, the Celestial Pearl Danio, my lips are kind of dry, kind of sticking to, hate that when they stick together when I talk. Okay, there we go. That's better. CPDs are not a single event spawner. They're a continuous spawner. They lay a few eggs every day. So if it takes a few months to get around 300 of those, that's not much production at all if you're an industry breeder trying to breed hundreds of thousands of them. So it's a lot harder and takes a lot more work to get 300,000 Celestial Pearl Danios, because you're not going to get a ton in one spawning event. You get a few, but you're not going to get a ton. Versus the other fish where you'll get a ton all at once. So that's why. But it's harder to raise the fry when they aren't produced all at once, because if you get a spawn of a few, and then a few days later you get a spawn of a few, and you try to raise them together, the ones that hatch first are going to have such a big head start. Just a few days is a massive head start on some of these fish that they're going to outcompete the others and maybe straight up eat them after a few weeks. So that's why. It's the ease of production. Sunmaker, got my first order coming in from Dan's Fish on Friday. Excited to see my fish. Hey, I'm glad. I'm glad you're gonna get your first order. It's wintertime, so my fingers are crossed, but hey, we're at 99.01% success, even with this crazy winter weather. So I think we're gonna be okay. Let me know how it goes, Sunmaker. Let us know. Joey, can you get diseases if you put in fallen leaves from your backyard in your tank? I've seen this being talked about and done online. I mean, I think you can get diseases from almost anything, but I put leaves from trees in my backyard in my tanks all the time, no problems. Now, I think the main thing to be, excuse me, God, I get another drink. Got a little tickle in my throat. I think the main thing to be cautious about is chemicals, like were there insecticides sprayed in the area, were there herbicides, are you right on us? Are those leaves right by a street where the chemicals from the traffic, are constantly being absorbed by them, stuff like that. But in my experience, it's never been a problem. Now, my experience is living in the West. Wyoming or California mostly. This is a dry climate. So when the leaves fall down, they quickly dry, and dry tends to mean not a lot of stuff's growing on them. If you live in a really wet climate, I don't know how safe that would be. I don't know if there's all kinds of like molds and slime and stuff growing on them because it's a constantly damp, wet climate that you wouldn't want to do that. But I know people in Seattle that do it all the time, and it doesn't get much wetter than that. So, for me, it's never been a problem. That's what I can tell you. Grow more veggies. Indeed. Do you have plans to get some croaking Grommies in the nearest future? Not really. No one wants them. Look at how cool this fish is that no one wants. They're basically like a large sparkling gourami. There you go. They're gonna end up, the biggest one I've ever seen that I ever raised up was maybe 2.5 inches. Did they get 3? I don't know if they got 3 inches, but they get decent size. they're basically like a sparkling gourami in body and finnage and all that as far as shape and stuff goes. Really neat fish, but I love them. It's one of those fish that I love and hardly anyone else loves, because whenever we bring them in, they do not sell. We cannot sell these for the life of us, even though they're super cool. So that's one of those fish that doesn't make a lot of sense for me to bring in. Now, will I bring them in again at some point? Yes. I don't know when. It doesn't make sense to do it now, but maybe in a year I'll be like, it's been a year. I'll try a few more. But yeah, there's just certain fish that I love, and apparently you love, and no one else loves grow more veggies. Just no one else loves them. And so I bring them in, I love on them, and they sit in my tanks forever, and that's bad for my business. Is it too cold to order fish right now? Probably not. We're shipping pretty successfully. And people have different ideas of cold. Like recently, Louisiana got some snow, and it was like, how cold did you get? I don't remember. You know, below freezing. That was very cold for them. Here in Wyoming, -35 is getting a bit nippy. So I don't know where you're at and what your idea of cold is. But you can order fish right now. We're still catching up from our holiday backlog. So the quickest they would go out is a week from now, probably more like 2 weeks from now anyway. So by then the weather will have changed. Who knows what it'll be like at that point. Now we do carefully look at the weather, and if we think somewhere's going to be affected by a big storm or weather that's really abnormal for that area that could affect services, then we will contact you and be like, oh, it looks like this might not be the day to ship, and we'll pick another day that's less risky for the fishies. So, you know, we'll work on that. But we ship fish pretty much all winter long, barring very few times when it's like, oh, that's a massive storm heading directly to the hub of UPS. So that's probably not a good time to ship UPS. So, okay. Jose Reyes, what is a fish that you feel like you're struggling to sell right now, like the loaches you just mentioned? The albino tapajos are not selling. Let me show you this fish. It's redhead tapajos. Pyrocephalus now. I think it has a scientific name finally. But look at this. We have a group of these that is awesome. People have bought them from us and they bred for them. Like, they're beautiful, awesome fish. They're not selling very quickly, and I'm not quite sure why. Is this one I just don't have a good picture of? Sometimes if I don't have a good picture of a fish, yeah, that's probably why. This is a picture of a juvenile. I probably need to update this picture, because now they're big enough that people are buying them, and they're breeding like within a week of being purchased. But that's one that isn't selling really well. What's another one that I think is really cool? I actually know this. Johnny and I went around the warehouse last week being like, what's not selling that's awesome? Imperial lapis tetras. These things are beautiful. This is one of those beautiful new kind of rare tetras from out of is it Manaus or below that? Anyway, out of Brazil. And we've got them. Got a decent picture. I could do better, I think, but for me that's a pretty good picture if I have to take it with my own camera. And yeah, we're selling a few, but they aren't flying off the shelf. Like, you know, sometimes I get something and it looks so awesome and I think it's amazing. It doesn't fly off the shelf. And then I have to go like, do I have a good picture? Is the description okay? Like, well, why isn't this moving, and figure out why. But those are a couple that are stumpers for me that I think are fantabulous. Fearless One. I appreciate the work your crew puts into ship healthy fish. When do you think you may get more Axelrod rasbora? I mean, next time the good supplier has some, I'll probably bring some in. That's one that I really do like. And people buy. So yeah, that's what I'll try to get in again. There's a supplier that does a good job with them. They just don't have them in very often. It's just, that's the case with a lot of these fish. So yeah, that's one that ideally I'd like to have in stock all the time. I just haven't found a way to source them such that I never run out. Okay, scrolling up here because chat jumped big time. Okay, scrolling, still scrolling. Okay, the next one I can see because chat cut me off is we need a dance fish store in every state one day. I don't think dance fish will be in every state, but our goal here is to be such a forcing function for positive change in the industry that the industry shifts and operates in a more humane way. So it's probably not going to be my store in every state, but hopefully one day before too long, there'll be stores that just practice best practices as a matter of practice. Did I just say practice 4 times in one sentence? Fishcapades always plops and drops as well. Yeah, it's what's worked best for me consistently over time. When do you think the new guppies will be available? Well, they're doing pretty good, so my hope is next week. But I don't know. The whole purpose of having quarantine is to give them time so that if an issue develops, we can see it and start treating it and fixing it before it goes to the customer. So hopefully next week. The earliest would be Wednesday of next week. Provided they're doing awesome, they're fat and sassy, no one's acting weird, and they get through quarantine in flying colors. Julian Aquascaped. Is that plop and drop after floating the bags to temperature acclimate? Yeah. If the temperature's way off, sure. A degree here or there doesn't make a big difference. It doesn't have to be like, ooh, this one's 79, this one's 78.5, can't put them together. Yeah, that's not a big deal. There can be a few degrees difference, but you don't want massive differences. I mean, fish go through temperature changes really abruptly in nature all the time. If a fish is 4 feet down in the river or in its environment, it's 4 feet down, and then it sees a bug hit the surface or something, it swims up to eat that, it's going to go through a 5-degree difference, just going up towards the surface sometimes. So, or if it goes from up towards the shore where it's shallow and the sun's beaten down, it's going to get warm. So water, if you've noticed, if you've ever swam in a lake and swam down and then up and then over to shore and then deeper into the lake itself, not deeper down in the water, but further into the lake, there's vast differences in temperature in short periods of time. So you don't want to shock them, but they can go through a few degrees difference without any problem. Oh my goodness gracious, it is 8:23 and Kayla's Reptiles and Aquatics is throwing Pippi Longstocking in my face to remind me probably that it's time to do the giveaway. So let's do that. No crashes today, folks. Huh. Okay. It could very well be a browser thing that I have zero control over. But we'll see what happens next week. So far, so good, though. Okay. The giveaway is for some beautiful longfin Rosy Barbs. By the way, learned from Corey at Aquarium Co-op when I was there in Seattle hanging out with him that these eat hair algae. So if you have hair algae and you want a fish to eat it, and you want that fish to be pretty and part of the normal aquarium community, these will do that. Longfin Rosy Barbs are great hair algae eaters. I had no clue about that, so you learn something new every day, especially if you're visiting Corey. But giveaways for those, there's 249 folks here. I'm just curious how many folks are in the stream. 401. Hey, that's really good. Thanks for being here, everybody. And the winner is, drum roll please, Spinster Sister. Hey, Spinster. I'm really thrilled you won. Spinster Sister has been a active participant on this channel for a long time. So Spinster Sister, yay, I'm glad to see that you want to give away after being involved for so long. Thank you for participating. As you know, you have 2 minutes, Spinster, to chime in, leave a comment in the chat. That's how you claim your winnings. You have to do that in 2 minutes. If you don't, you forfeit your winnings and I will draw somebody else with reluctance, but I have to do it. I have to stick with the rules. So while we're waiting for Spinster Sister to leave a comment in chat to claim their winnings, we're going to go with Teresa Fetch, who says, any chance of getting any albino cribensis? I can get them. I love them. It's another one of those fish that I really like and not many customers do. Last time we got those, it took us 8 months to sell through a single tank of those. So probably not anytime soon. Jason McEvoy. Hey, Jason, good to see you. I'm saying your last name wrong. McAvoy. I think that's right. The channel you were referring to earlier where the person bred neon tetras is a simple, easy to replicate manner is Mark's Aquatics. Thank you. Mark's Aquatics. Not Mark's Aquariums, Mark's Aquatics. Yes. Yes. And Jason, good to hear from you. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Tim M. Any balloon rams, any type, coming around anytime. It's a lot of any. I don't have any plans to bring them in. Any solid plans to bring in the balloon types. I usually don't bring those in. But I did once accidentally get a group of electric blue balloon rams in, and they were fantastic, and people loved them. Rams are a challenge, though. Like, you think you figured them out, and then they throw you a curveball. And so basically where I'm at with those is I'm still trying to figure rams out. We do a pretty good job, don't get me wrong, but there's some work there to do. And until I know more about what to do to get them through quarantine and healthy and ready to sell quicker and stuff and more successfully, I don't know if we'll be bringing in lots of different types than we already have. We already have like 6 types. So, but once we figure that out, yeah, I might do balloon rams. And they're kind of cool. Oh, there it is. I think Spinster, within 39 seconds, claimed her winnings. I've never had those beautiful barbs. I have 12 empty tanks to fill. OMG, I'm so happy. Thank you so much, Dance Fish. Oh my G, I won. Thank you so much. I won! You did. All right, Spinster, I'm glad we could make your night, especially after you being a loyal, active participant and a valuable member of this channel in this community for so long. So congratulations. Please send us an email to hello@dancefish.com. That's HELLO@dancefish.com. And we need your first name, your last name, your mailing address. I know we already have it, but if you include it, it just makes it so much easier. And do that, and Johnny will arrange a shipping date with you and get you fish to help fill those 12 empty tanks. Yeah, awesome. With that, we're going to close this down. I want to thank the moderators for moderating. I want to thank everyone who's a member of the Dance Fish channel for being a member. We released a video earlier this week, and you guys got early access to it. That's something we're doing, just as a little perk for you. And I want to thank everyone who gifted memberships, thanks Denise, and everyone that threw super chats at us. Much appreciated. Never required, but it's going to be awesome to be able to send Johnny to the Clash and let him get out and meet some of you guys that he's just known through internet contact, and get out of the fish warehouse for a little while. It's going to be great for him to be able to do that. I'm happy for him. Where was I? Super chats. Oh yeah, if you were active in the chat, thanks for participating. If you were not active, I still love you. Hail the Lurker Nation. If you're watching on the replay, hello from the past. And if you're listening to the podcast, thanks for listening. That's, I think, all we got. We'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I sincerely hope you have the best week ever. Bye-bye.